Hello everyone, it's Deb Blum here. This is the Inside-Out Activism Show, and I'm so glad you're here today. I just wanted to spend a moment talking a little bit about the current situation. I have a couple of videos that I'm getting ready to launch at some point soon that are going to specifically talk about race, and I want to talk about white women and our part in this. However, I think there are a lot of people who are out there who may be feeling a sense of, what's the word? Maybe a little sense of overwhelm, a sense of not really knowing what to do, or perhaps just feeling like there's a way that we're being kind of consumed. There's a lot in the news. There's so much going on. And couple many, I guess it's like not even just couple, like bring together many factors, and it starts to feel overwhelming, right? We all have our own personal lives that we're dealing with. We also have the fact that we have a pandemic that we are dealing with. Many people are dealing with all kinds of, financial or mental health challenges. And so there are all kinds of things happening in that space. And then, more recently, we've had an escalation of our awareness around race and the police brutality. And even though those things have been happening for people of color, for Black people, for their whole lives, there's a way that for many people, and I think a lot of my audience are white women, for many people to finally to start to see this a little bit more clearly, and it can be overwhelming. And so I just wanted to talk about a couple of things. I first wanted to say that, inside-out activism is really, it comes from the place that the way that we can make sustainable change starts with each one of us. The idea is that it starts in our hearts, and then it expands out, and we can make change in our families, and make changes in our workplaces, make changes in our local communities, local governments, and that the smaller and more like kind of tight circles of change we make, it's like something that you can come in with some things that look like quick fixes, but sometimes those things won't stick. They won't be sustainable. But when we do smaller changes that we keep building on each other, and then they keep rippling out, my philosophy on this is that it will have a more sustained effect in the world. And so we won't be changing things from our minds. We won't be changing things with strategies, but we'll be changing the way we show up in the world. And that's the invitation with inside-out activism. So with that said, what my question is for you is, how have you been navigating this? Have you been navigating this from the place of trying to figure it out and trying to like mentalize it and come up with like what your thing you're going to do in order to be able to make things better? Because that strategy, I was noticing I was in a little bit of that kind of strategic place. In that place, I was like above my neck, and I was trying to work it out. And then, I sat with myself this morning. I woke up and I just felt this real strong sense, and I've been meditating for the past week pretty consistently. So it's not that I hadn't been, but this morning I had a really strong pull to just sit with myself a little bit more intimately, I would just say. And what I realized was I needed to drop in. I needed to drop out of my head and into my body, and see what I think happens is often we're taking all of our cues from social media and from the news and from what our friends are saying, and we're taking the cues of what we should be doing. But what's really ideal is that rather than consume and then just sort of like have this mishmash of all these things inside of us, the invitation, in my opinion, is to take things in, and to know that some things are going to actually not resonate, and then to let those things go. Then when we have the things that resonate, let them come inside of us. And I'm not talking about to be overwhelmed by them or to be like consumed by them. It's rather to consume. So you are taking the act of consumption, not to be consumed by. So we don't want to be like engulfed by them, but let them come in, but then let them settle inside of us, and then check in with us and take our cues from the inside out. So rather than taking the cues from the outside in and believing other people know better what we need to be doing, we take the cues from the inside out. We can listen to other people. Like, there is great advice out there. There are many, many people who are showing the way or showing a way. But at the end of the day, we need to all find our own way. And so what I think is super important here is to remember that for many people, especially parents, I think that the thing that will often happen is we will get so consumed with all the things that have to happen. Like, we should be doing this, we should protest, we should be posting on social media, I should be reading so much. And then what happens is we take ourselves away from the place where we have the greatest impact. And the short-term impact will look better. It'll look more powerful by us doing the things that are being the external things, okay? So it's going to we're going to be able to get other people perceiving us to be anti-racist and allies through the things that we do when we speak out, okay? So, and they're important. I'm not denying their importance. But the truth is that there are many, many ways to get to a place where we can truly be anti-racist, not racist. You know what I mean? Like, we can really get there. But what we are being called to do, and I'm specifically referring to on the Inside-Out Activism Show, is the inside-out journey, because I still believe that if we were to try to make change under the current level of consciousness, mine included, all of ours, we will just trade one set of problems for another set of problems. But if we come and we heal our nervous systems, and we heal trauma, and we do our own inner work, and we look inside for the inner oppressor, and we look inside for the ways that we are racist, and then unpack those and do the shadow work around them. And then if we bring to our homes our more conscious selves, and then we begin to ensure that we are parenting our children in the way where we don't perpetuate an oppressive way of parenting, which will then perpetuate oppressive ways of being in the world, the more that we can be showing our children the way to be more empathetic and to be more compassionate and to see the world from a much more I guess I would just say from the view of the world we wish to be creating, the more that we impact change, you know? So does it mean that it'll change overnight? No, but none of the things we're doing are going to change overnight. The urgency you feel in the air is really people's energy of trying to distract themselves from having to feel the discomfort inside. We have been trained over and over and over again that when you see a problem, that you externalize and you try to fix the problem. And that is part of the addiction that we are trying to break here, which is the addiction to trying to find short-term fixes and to externalize. We are being called to turn inward and to look inside of ourselves, not to tell people we aren't racist, but to look inside of us to find the ways that other people, we make them bad and we're good. Or even they're good and we're bad. Neither one of them are helpful. The ways that we are unkind and we war inside of ourselves, the inner divides, the inner angst, the divides inside of our families. It's very hard to have a huge amount of influence in the outside world, especially during a pandemic, but we can have incredibly effective transformations within our own hearts and within our closest relationships. And so for those of you who are parents and those of you who are not going to be going out there and doing social justice work, there is a massive amount of inner justice work that is needing to be done and being called for. And that is really my invitation to you is, can you just allow yourself to not be so consumed with how we're going to fix the problem and rather be willing to sit with the discomfort inside of us, to be willing to look at the places where you might be judging people, or the places where you're feeling that you're judging yourself. And instead of just going quickly trying to stop feeling that discomfort and just like get into action, rather than that, to sit quietly with yourself. And so some people might call that meditation. My invitation is to say, don't even call it meditation. Just spend maybe a couple minutes every day in contemplation and in feeling the feelings of discomfort, of actually taking in something that happened in the day that you felt uncomfortable with. And instead of shifting to your mind and trying to fix the problem or make sense of the problem, instead sit with the discomfort of it. Like, one of the things that I notice happens around race is that often it triggers in a lot of my friends, and it triggered in me, this sense of not wanting to get it wrong. We want to do it right. And so then we dive into educating ourselves. And that is great. The education process is super important. But when we take it and we just bring it into our heads and we try to just make sense of it, and we're trying to almost become a better person, we're trying to be an expert anti-racist, instead of realizing that actually what's really called for is for us to really hear the cries, to hear the feelings and the needs and the pain and the suffering that has been caused, rather than just doing this on a cognitive level. We are being called to feel the discomfort. You know, our Black brothers and sisters have been sitting in tremendous discomfort for their whole lives. And I won't get into it because I'm not going to speak for their experience, but you know that's true. And we have been able to avoid feeling some of that discomfort. And now the invitation is to feel the discomfort in our bodies, in our hearts. And so instead of externalizing this, let's see if you can bring it into your heart and really, really feel into what's going on. Sit quietly with yourself and just feel into what's happening. And then my last invitation to you is that it's okay. It is okay to just enjoy your life. It's okay to do this work at times, read the news at times, speak out at times, and then also have times where you're just present with your family and you're present with yourself and you're having fun and you're doing great things, because that is also important in this time. We will burn out if we orient ourselves only around social justice, or orient ourselves only around fixing and educating and researching, and we must have balance. And so this invitation is to say, listen to yourself. Do what needs to be done. Your family desperately needs you to be the leader and the person who is there enjoying life with them and being a role model for the life that you want them to have, the world that you want to be creating. Not a world where we're just orienting solely on the problem and the pain, but setting the intention for what is the aspiration, what is that we hope to create together, and then being that in your family, being that in the world, and living that way, and bringing the hope and the optimism and the compassion and the connection and the curiosity that you wish to see in the world, to really manifest that in your home and in your heart, because there's not real value in just sitting in the anguish of it. Now, I know I sound like I'm kind of contradicting myself because I'm saying feel the suffering and also be happy, but it's true. That's what it is. It's so in some ways like paradoxical. There are many, many truths that are here that we do need. The invitation is to sit with the discomfort, and the invitation is also to not have to create the world we want to create, right? To create the world we want to create. And that comes from the inside out. And it also comes from being the change we wish to see in the world. So I hope that this is helpful for you. I hope that you can hear that, that that this is really, it's complex. It's not something that there's just one size fits all. And the journey for us is to be listening and to be learning, but also to be knowing that inside of each one of us is some bit of truth and some bit of uniqueness in the way that we look at the world. And we are allowed to bring that unique voice and that unique perspective. You do not have to speak some sort of a party line, if you will. You get the freedom to be you. And that's the invitation, that this is coming back to you, being with you, and then bringing you forth. Thank you.